All right, good morning. So I'm going to talk a little bit real quick this morning for I'll probably only go 10 or 12 minutes this morning, but on the subject of being productive versus being busy. And what's interesting, like um, yesterday I woke up at 2 a.m. Pacific time. It was actually, what was it? It was actually 3:47 a.m. if I'm being super technical. 3:47 a.m. Central. I woke up, which is like 1:47 a.m. where I live, and I was flying home. I fell asleep last night listening to a podcast of something that I have like this. I'm in learning and application mode in a particular area. Like I'll just tell you what it is. I'm really focused on learning how to day trade, basically. So there was something that I heard while I was sleeping that caused me to immediately wake up, and I for some reason I caught it, and I was able to wake up, stop the podcast, backed it up 20 or 30 seconds, and then I wrote down some notes on that. Now I'm wide awake. And then yesterday was one of those glorious, beautiful, amazing travel days where I left the hotel at like 5 a.m. and I got home last night at like 9:30. So, a lot of people get stressed out about that and freak out. To me, it was just a beautiful, glorious day. I'm not sure I would have rather been at home at noon like I was supposed to be. But the truth is I had, 4 hours in one lounge and another 4 hours in another lounge. And I made maximum use of that time. So it was a great study day. I was literally like taking notes, watching videos, applying it to the charts in this case. But it got me thinking, like when I was, in fact, I was anticipating getting home earlier, and I was going to do this live yesterday, but I really didn't have the time because the next flight, I ended up missing it. But while I was in that study mode, it made me think about how many people, get into this busy mode. And this applies across the board. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in network marketing or not. I see it firsthand in network marketing where people are doing all these activities. And by the way, like what I'm going to share with you is just like, this is going to be like, you might already be productive and you're getting after it. And that every single day you're making things happen and you're not in that consumption mode. You're either, because what I find is people get into, and I've been guilty of it, where you get into consumption mode versus production mode. It's fine to consume information, data, education. But if you get into this perpetual learning thing and not applying it, you just become this like ever living student, which, in one respect is kind of cool because you're super educated, I guess. But then if you're learning business stuff, for example, like I'm learning, like the one thing I focused on yesterday was, and this is not, I mean, it's relevant to this conversation, but I was studying trend lines and how to draw trend lines on different time frames. Okay, you may not even have any clue what I'm talking about, or if you're a trader, you definitely know. But what I did is I was like, okay, I listened and I watched, and then I went over to the charts and I started to apply that stuff. And then I had a few aha moments. Well, I was like, oh, wait a second, now I see the pattern, right? I'm able to see it because I'm actually doing it on my own chart. And again, I'm not going to go into a bunch of stuff on trading. It just happens to be something that I'm super personally interested in at the moment. But a couple of things, like especially for people that are in sales or that are in network marketing, direct selling, little pieces of ammunition that I want to give you. And for some of you that, hop on a lot of my lives, this is going to be a repeat for you. But then even if it is a repeat, maybe you should ask yourself, oh, am I actually doing this? Because it's interesting. Like, I don't know, like this whole idea of like scrolling. And look, I mean, I saw people doing it while I was in the United Lounge, and I know people were I saw this woman was sitting next to me, and I wasn't staring at her stuff, but I could see that she's just scrolling, and I wasn't really paying. I could just tell that she was in kind of wasting time mode, which I've done too, like been sitting in the United Lounge and, doing nothing but like, I don't know, entertaining myself, if you will. But I committed yesterday to probably about 8 or 9 hours of education and then application. And you guys hear me say this all the time. It's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know. So just a couple of pieces of suggestion. And then even like, I would take this, like if you have no problem being productive, I guarantee you got people on your team that are struggling to be productive and they're in learning mode, which kudos to them, right? They should, that's cool that you have somebody that's actually studying and eager and wanting to know and wanting to comprehend and understand what it is that you're teaching them. But then are they actually putting it into application? Like a lot of people get stuck in that mode of just consuming for, I would say primarily the reason is, and this is something that you have to be aware of, either for yourself if you're struggling with it or for individuals that you're working with and they're just not taking action. I mean, the biggest stopper for everybody is, for the first couple of days, if they don't know what to do, it's not knowing what to do, but really it's fear. So you gotta realize that either for you personally, or if you got people on your teams that are not taking action, then you got to figure out, okay, well, why aren't you taking action? I would have no problem. Like, I'm just, and they may just tell you, I'm scared, I'm fearful. And so that's a big job that you would have as a network marketing professional, is helping that person work through their fears. So, a couple questions. Are you being busy or are you being productive? I mean, that's a great question. In my coaching program with my A-teamers, I have them ask a question of themselves at the end of every day. And this is a great question to ask yourself. I mean, this should be like a habitual question. At the end of every day, you're done for the day, you're finished. Just ask yourself. This is like, it's not weird. You're just having a conversation with you and you're going to say, what did I produce today? What did I produce today? I think that's a very valid question. Not like what did I learn today? Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. What did I learn today? Well, I learned this, but then what did you do with what you learned? Like, I'm super adamant about, and I don't read pleasure books, man. I just don't. Like, I can't remember the last time that I read. I can't remember the last time I read a novel or something that just was purely for education, or purely for entertainment. Everything I do is like selling, leadership, mindset, skill development in whatever area that I'm studying at that time. It's just, that to me is entertainment. For other people, it may not be. They might perceive it as work, but for me, that's super fun. But the important thing that I always take is I'll take something like I did yesterday in the middle. Like, I learned this little technique on a shorter time frame when I was looking at this chart, these trend lines on these charts. And then I was like, wait, I'm going to go over to my charts and then I'm going to go back test it and see if this actually works for me and see if it actually pans out. And it was really interesting. I was like, again, I don't want to go too far into the trading stuff because the purpose is not to teach you guys trading, but it's like, that's something I'm learning. So I'm always teaching based on the things that I'm doing, not the things that I just feel like teaching on, or an experience that I just had, or a conversation or a struggle that somebody had that causes me to go, okay, well, I'm going to teach on that. So I don't I would say I almost never randomly choose something that I'm speaking on when it comes to going live. It's based on a conversation that I just had or something that I was doing that triggered a thought where, okay, other people are struggling with this. So just, look at the last 7 days, for example. Okay. It's Monday, good morning, by the way, happy Monday. Look at the last 7 days and go back to each day. And if you can recall, and, were you being productive, or were you just doing things that you think are cool and think might propel your business forward? And when you ask that question, like, what did I produce today? It's not necessarily the result. It's not the result of course we want the result, but it's not the result. Cause okay, yesterday, if I asked myself and, I did ask myself, okay, what did I produce today? I felt like super victorious yesterday, even though I was in traveling for like however many hours that was. It was a long travel day. I felt that I had a very productive day. Now, did I have production in terms of revenue production that day? No, it wasn't, but it wasn't a bunch of busy work either. And I think sometimes people get caught up in the busy And so another great way of phrasing it, I think I've already said that, is like, am I being busy or am I being productive? And I think you should know the difference from that. You should know that, okay, oh no, I was, scrolling through, and it's fine. Doing a scroll is fine. Like, I'll scroll through social media for ideas, but then like I will literally pull out the journal. I'll be taking notes on it, or I'll screenshot something, and then I'll come back to that and go, how can I specifically apply that into my business? Like, even, and just so you guys know, there's a lot of things when it comes to learning. Like, I'm on a lot of different email lists, like probably too many. Some people put me on email lists without my approval, and they just put you on there, which is just, that's not good. I don't know. That's not good marketing. Like, don't ever put somebody on your email list without them opting in. Like, you're never going to end up on my email list unless you download something of mine or whatever. So it's just, people get pissed and they don't like it. So I remember, and I've told this story before, but it's been a long time. I remember getting an email from Frank Kern, and Frank is, if you don't know, he's a direct marketing wizard. The guy is just amazing, right? And Frank sent me an email pitching me something. It was a sales email. And I looked at the sales email and I was like, wait, wow, that's really interesting how he framed that. Now he's pitching me something. This is just an email that he's sending me. And I looked at the email and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, I felt compelled. I didn't buy, I've purchased a bunch of stuff from Frank. I didn't buy that particular day, that particular product, but I was really admiring the sales pitch. And I think the other thing is, if you're in sales, you should be like very interested in how people, how people promote or pitch things. Like, if you're in any kind of sales, like, I love a good timeshare sale. I do. Like, if I get a free Mexican blanket and a bad bottle of tequila that I'll throw away, I mean, I'll just go to the timeshare sale just so I can get the free Mexican blanket. Because there's so much fear of loss used in a timeshare sale. It's staggering, but it's very interesting. There's a lot of things that you can learn from that. I've learned a ton. I got a couple friends of mine that are really good at timeshare, and it's just fascinating. I find it fascinating. So instead of being like, oh, I don't really like getting pitched, I enjoy the pitch. I enjoy, being presented, because there are things that you can learn from that, and you can learn from it, but then it's like, what do you do with it? So like with Frank's email, it was a series of 4 emails that I ultimately got on that campaign that he was sending me. And even though I didn't buy that product, sorry, Frank, I bought a bunch of stuff from you. I ended up taking that email and I reframed it for my company and my business. And I put together this email campaign and this offer that I ended up going out on a cruise. I used to go on the MLM cruise every year for like 15 years with Carla. And this cruise that I went on, I launched that email campaign while I was on the cruise, and I made like 15 grand, like on a cruise ship, which that revenue never would have come in because I would have never done that campaign. So again, it comes down to the application of it. And so again, if you're either being busy or you're being productive, which one is it? And I think, like, yeah, maybe you can go back to the last 7 days and kind of do a review and a recap. But like, if you take what I'm sharing with you today and go, okay, I'm going to plant a flag today and go, okay, this Falcone guy is talking about the difference between busy and being productive. Like, what am I being? Like, because you feel like everybody feels, it's like, when you got like a 1-bedroom apartment, it's weird how you didn't have any furniture. Now it's filled up. And then you scale up and you get a 2-bedroom apartment. Then you go buy your first house, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And it's weird how you didn't have furniture and stuff. And then all of a sudden it's full. And then the garage is full. And then you go get another house. And now you got a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house that's, 4,000 square feet or whatever. And how do we manage to fill all that stuff up? So we'll always fill stuff up, the same thing that we do with our schedule and your time. But are you using your time wisely? A lot of people don't use their time very wisely, and your time is something that you can never get back. So if you haven't been in this mode of like trying your best to maximize the productivity out of your day, then I would encourage you to kind of start looking at what you're doing. And oh, here's another idea. This is great. These things are beautiful. So you can set multiple alarms on mobile phones throughout the day. It's not just one alarm, and then you can set multiple alarms at different random times. Set random alarms, and when the alarm goes off, whatever the sound is, and I've done lives on this, I've talked about this before. Stop yourself right then and there and go, okay, is what I'm doing right now making me money? Or is it leading me in the direction of making me money? Or were you just being, madly entertained by something on Instagram or wherever you might have been? So it'll get you in the habit of making sure that you're lasering in and that you're staying focused on what really you ought to be doing, is being in a production mode. Like, where's your time going? So again, am I being productive or am I being busy? This is fundamental basics 101. This isn't incredibly complicated. It's definitely not technical. At the end of every day, however you choose to ask yourself the question, like when you're done with your day, and you should do this every night, put it in your calendar, like 9 o'clock at night. I don't know what time you finish your day. Just leave it in there. Like put it every day in your calendar. You can like repeat that until eternity in your digital calendar. What did I produce today? And then don't ignore it. Look at it. Even have an alarm on it, because you can set a reminder, an alarm in your calendar. So, because sometimes, I know I've done it. You have something that's in your calendar every single day to eternity, and then all of a sudden you see it, but you just ignore it. I mean, I've been guilty of it. So I guarantee I'm not the only human being on planet Earth that's done that. And then if you stick to asking yourself that question and you stick to being productive, and then if you're not, the other thing is, if you're not being, if you're keeping tabs on yourself and you're in learning mode, which is good, and you're in the attempt to apply the mode, which is good, right? You're like, okay, I took this new intel and I'm applying it. I'm putting it to work. It's kind of like, okay, whatever, okay, so let's say you got my little black book of scripts. It's great to have it. It's great to read through it, but are you taking the script and are you applying it into the scenario where it's appropriate for that particular scenario? If you never apply it, then how do you know if it's going to work for you or not? I mean, that's just like one example. And I have done it more than one time. I'm guilty. Okay. I have sinned. Okay. I have purchased training programs. On something that I was interested in and never dug into the training program. So as a coach, as a trainer, if I'm doing it, I don't need to poll any audience. I got to guess that I ain't the only dude that's done that. Like, you buy something with this intent of learning it. I mean, I've bought programs that I bought and I forgot that I bought, and I don't even know what the hell a login is anymore. Like, I don't even know how to, it's like, what's the website of where that product was that I purchased. I bought this video production deal. Actually, it reminds me, I got to go find that, because I got some really good tips in that thing. I went through it just a little bit and I never dug in. Okay. I mean, I just spent $2,000 on a trading course, 2 G's. It was actually 2020 was the amount, but I have literally been in that thing every night for like 2 hours a night, taking it, watching it, taking notes. Have I executed a trade yet? No, I'm not going to execute a trade with the strategy until I feel like I have it down, but I'm taking it. I'm taking notes on it. I'm taking it to the chart. So I feel like in this case, while it may not be making me money just yet, I'm not just in learning mode. And then the last thing I'll say is, again, what you're going to deal with, especially if you're a network marketer, if you have people on your team that aren't doing something, the reason that they're not doing something is because they're fearful. And we could sit here and use the acronym. I don't really like the acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing real. You may disagree. That's totally cool. I don't know. To me, the fear feels pretty real. Like, if you're afraid of something, it feels very real. It's scary. It's intimidating. It's causing me to not act. It's causing me to avoid. So it's real enough to cause physiological responses in my body: dry mouth, sweating, heart pounding, butterflies in the stomach, whatever it might be. So you can sit there and try to minimize it and give it some funny acronym, like whoever did that many years ago: fear, false evidence appearing real. I've had fear in my life. It's funny because my brand, the Fearless Networker, well, that came as a result of going from the fearful networker to the fearless networker. And even then, even with the trademark, even with the brand, it's not that I don't have fear. I may not have fear of prospecting, fear of network marketing, fear of recruiting, fear of speaking, but most certainly I've got different fears. But it's what do you do in the middle of that fear when you're faced with that real fear, not false evidence appearing real? What do you do when you're faced with that fear? Do you run away from it, or do you attack it head on and face it one baby step at a time. One step at a time. I'll give you one final example because I surf. This is a perfect example, and then I'll end it. Okay. So if you're afraid of drowning, you're afraid of the ocean, and you're not good at surfing, or even myself right now, like, because it's not like I'm surfing on the regular, going out and paddling out on a, 1 foot day where the wave is like literally this big, it's barely even enough push in the ocean to even give you momentum to stand up. So most people, if they feel remotely comfortable in the ocean, aren't going to be fearful. But, if the waves are 10 to 12 foot and there's a lot of current and there's a lot of rip currents out there, and, you can see massive amounts of water moving around, and the wave breaks and you can see sand from the bottom of the ocean, like curling up in the white water. I mean, of course, you would legitimately have fear. Well, if you're a new surfer, you've never done it before, then you would probably it probably wouldn't be wise for you to even paddle out. Maybe you should start on a 1 foot day, a 2 foot day, a 3 foot, get comfortable, being out in the water on a 3 foot day. I would never, I took my, well, I will say a funny story. I took my, I don't know, was he my cousin or my nephew? He was like a second cousin or something. He wanted to learn how to surf at Newport Beach when I was living down there. And I was like, bro, you cannot learn to surf. You can't learn to surf like in one day, and where I surf is like the wave pitches and it barrels. So it's not this crumbly little foamy little easy wave. I mean, it comes in and it pitches, and it's a very hollow wave. And he wanted to go. I gave him a quick little lesson. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget this visual. I gave him a quick little lesson on the beach, and I'm paddling out, and there's something in surfing called duck diving. So when the wave is coming at you, you push the front of your board down, and you're able to go up and underneath the wave and get on the other side of it. So the wave's breaking and you kind of duck dive underneath it. That's what it's called. And I told him when we were sitting on the beach, dude, you need to make sure that where your body is, that you're balanced on the board. So as you're laying on the surfboard, it should be flat. So if you're too far back, then the front of the board is going to be up like this. And I'm looking at him as I'm duck diving under these. It was like 4 foot that day. I'm duck diving under these waves, and he's sitting there paddling. He's like way too far back on the surfboard. And I told him, don't do it. He's way too far back on the surfboard. And the nose of the surfboard is up like this, and he can't even reach far enough to duck dive. He doesn't even know how to duck dive anyhow. And I'm just watching down the line as this wave, the lip of the wave just lands right on his head, and he just got pummeled, and he comes up and he's all just shuffled. And I tried to tell him, don't do it. This is not a good day for you to learn how to surf. Okay. If you want to learn to surf, you start on a 1 foot day. If you want to be able to move through whatever the fear is, let's say it's the fear of public speaking. Like, okay, so let's say you've been educating yourself and sucking in as much information and education as you can on how to be a better speaker. And you're like, okay, cool. I've been in study mode. Well, you can't ever be a good speaker unless you apply it. So you'd have to speak. So like this, for example, like you could put a camera on, right? You could, and speak looking into a camera lens like I am without even turning the camera on. That would be some degree of application of that. That would be like a 1 foot day. And then I don't know if you can still do this or not. I think you can, but if you were like, hey, I'm going to get ready to do my first Facebook Live, you turn the camera on, and then you go into Facebook and you go, you set the settings to only me, meaning you're doing a Facebook Live, but it's really literally only to you. I know they used to have that setting. I never use it, but I would think they probably still have it. Okay, so that might be a 2 foot day. And you're like, okay, cool, I can push myself through it. That's what I'm talking about, that I would never take you out on a 10 foot day. I would never take you if you've never spoken before, even if you studied speaking and you've gone to a bunch of speaking courses and this and that, and you've read every book on being a good speaker and you've watched great speakers, but you've never actually spoken. Hey man, I want you to speak for 45 minutes in front of an audience of 10,000 people. No way. That's like going out on a 50 foot day at Nazaré in Portugal. By the way, if you ever want to see a big wave, that is probably the biggest wave on earth is Nazaré. It's Nazare, just for your entertainment purposes. 30 seconds of entertainment, then get yourself back to production. So again, very big difference between busy and productive. Busy means your day is done and you really didn't accomplish anything. And I'm not talking about revenue. You can't necessarily control the result. You can control the activity. If we're looking at sales, I mean, the better you get, you can close more business, you can be more efficient, you can be more effective. But that's not what I'm talking about in terms of you asking yourself at the end of the day, what did I produce today? Okay, let's say I finished today. I made no phone calls. I don't know. I don't even know, what is it called? Candy Crush. I played Candy Crush all day. I scrolled through Facebook and Instagram for 3 hours. At the end of the day, if I ask myself the question, what did I produce today? And I have to, if I was being honest, I'd have to say no, 0. But if I, on the other hand, I studied some stuff. Oh, I was like, cool, that's a really interesting way of asking that question. I'm going to apply that. And then even though you didn't make a sale, you didn't get a result, you didn't get a sign up or whatever it might be, you could say, look, I did 15 reach outs today. And I applied these new strategies, these new, conversation openers or whatever it might be that that thing that you learned and that you applied. That's what I'm talking about. That makes the difference. But you can't just keep going through the motions every day and not get real with yourself as to whether or not you're being busy or productive. Like, I think yesterday, and it was great. I was very calm, cool, and collective. I'm sure there was a bunch of people that were probably angry about yesterday, that were on the same flights I was. I mean, first plane was, I don't want to go in a broken plane. I don't know why you're getting mad, man. If the plane's broken, we're going to fall out of the air. You can only fall out of the air one time and you're done. So I was like, okay, the plane is late. They had to fly a new plane in from Houston. Fine, whatever. 4 hours later, we finally got out of that plane, missed my connection. Okay, because I missed my connection, very few flights that come in here. Okay, I've got to sit around the airport for 4 hours. At least it was almost 5 hours. So I just made use of that time and didn't get angry, kept calm, cool, and collected, because there's nothing you can do about it anyhow. That's another thing. By the way, I am going to go off for a second. If you're traveling, don't be that guy or girl that starts screaming and freaking out over the fact, the customer service people have got, like, that's not their fault. They didn't make the plane. They didn't control the plane. They didn't control any of that. They're just there to be a customer service provider. Be sweet, be kind, be nice to those people. It amazes me because I travel so much, to see how evil some people can be to a customer service agent. It's not even their problem. So I don't know, just went off on that. What did I produce today? Ask yourself that. Put that in your calendar at the end of every single day. If you're afraid of applying that thing, whatever that thing is, you don't have to jump in the deep end just to get in. What does that mean in the application of, like, let's say prospecting and sales or network marketing? Well, do a reach out, do a call. You don't have to do 50 today. If you did 50, you're going to shorten your learning curve. You're going to have more experiences to learn from. But if you can do 1 call, you can do 2. If you can do 2, you can do 3. If you can do 3, you can do 6. If you can do 1, if you can just do 1, but it's about facing the fear one step at a time. And if I go lastly back to the surfing analogy one more time, if you're in the water every single day, like back in the day, like it took me a full year to be able to stand up on a surfboard, a full year as a 17-year-old. I was pretty fit at the time, but I was also learning on a board that's 5 feet 11 inches. I was not learning on a longboard, and I was also learning on the south side of Seal Beach Pier, which just basically breaks on the sand. Like, it is. If you don't stand up, you're getting chucked. And that's just that happens. I could have learned on the north side of the pier, but my bros, they always surf south side of Seal Beach Pier. And if any of you guys know the difference between north side of the pier and south side of the pier, north side is this crumbly little foamy wave, and south side just bam, thumps. You better stand up or you're getting chucked. So it took me like a year to stand up. And I never went out on an 8-foot day or a 6-foot day. I would go out on like a 2 to 3 to 4 foot day. Eventually, over time, because I surfed, like, anytime there was any wave in the water, probably from like 1984 through, I don't know, let's call it at least 2000, I was in the water 3 to 5 days a week. That was my workout. And by that point, and I had moved to Monterey, California, and it's scary, and the waves are way bigger in Northern California. Paddling out on a 10 to 12 foot day is very different than paddling out on a 3-foot day. There's so much more water moving around. I can tell you, I had fear moving in my body, but I had worked my way up to facing 3 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot waves, 8 foot waves, getting comfortable and how you adapt in that kind of a situation before you go out on a 10-foot day. Because if you're not going to go first time surfing on a 10-foot day because you're going to drown and die. Okay. I mean, that's the consequence of it's one thing to face your fear one baby step at a time, but not a launch step like that. So I'm not going to tell you, like, again, going back to the speaking analogy, you can go speak in front of a camera that's turned off or turned on, or to an audience of one or none. And you can do that enough times where now you got comfortable getting eye contact and holding your thoughts together. And then, whatever you're going to say, and then you can maybe go do your first Facebook Live, or you can do a recorded video and then post it out onto social media. So I don't know, just some thoughts. Yesterday I had this in my mind. I didn't think I was going to be this late coming home, but this video would have been done yesterday, but now I'm here. And so I want to just share with you guys again. So anyhow, happy Monday, y'all. Hope you're having a beautiful one. We'll see you on the next one. See ya.